So finding your heart in the middle of the chart?
Of,
or
the
in the
li- of life,
of
middle of
life?
nature.
Okay, of
See-
nature. And yeah, astrology is a practice of nature or a study of
Well,
nature.
some people, like, for me it is. For me, it's how we're connected to nature and how nature has its seasons, its time of the day, its phases of the moon, and we're part of it, and our meaningfulness is part of that. In astrology, over the century, it's really changed a lot. There was a lot of really, turn of the century, there was a lot of spiritual things and spiritual associations with astrology. From about the 60s on, psychology became a predominant factor. So there's been a lot of psychological astrology over the last 40, 50 years. Many of the books have been written that way. They're fascinating. It's really interesting. It just dawned on me a few years ago that, oh boy, psychology is atheistic.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start looking at that, you're measuring everything, and all the earlier spiritual techniques that were basically accepted have been put down to less than mainstream. So there's a tide rising of psychological, scientific astrology. Well, scientific is measuring things, yeah, but it's not touching your heart. So it's not necessarily spiritual. So to my mind, I don't have to prove astrology to scientists. Astrology is the standard, not science. Science is like the prodigal son of astrology. Even with the scientific influence on astrology, you have a lot of astrology today is made by mathematical associations, 1 to 12. There's 12 signs, and there must be 12 planets. It's a numerological viewpoint of it. That's a very different thing than a natural view of it. So in the States, it's very popular that there's 12 signs, there's 12 houses, and the planets, they all parallel each other. So Aries is like the first house, is like Mars. And that's a common modern theme that wasn't around for a long time. It's just something that's come in the last 50, 60 years. Life works by orbits, by ellipses more than cycles. So there's usually, in nature, in reality, things aren't perfect circles. So in the older days, the basic thought was there's the heavens above, there's the earth below. So even in China, there was the heavenly light above, and there was the dark earth below, or the lines on the earth below, and we're being ground in between it. As the earth turns and the heavens are moving, we have our character and our life within it. Then the planetary beings are the moving lights that are the gods moving through the heavens that influence our life. And since they're above us and they're moving through the heavens and affecting the earth, we look at them and we emulate our life based on those gods, and we elevate our natures to be like the nature of the gods.
Mm-hmm. We divine ourselves.
Yeah, so this was the early inner fabric of astrology, just connected to nature. It's still that way. You have daylight's greater, nighttime's greater. It's noon, it's midnight. You have different textures, and these have different validities. But astrology is 65% moving out into word association, the number associations, rather than anchoring it to nature. So that a lot of people will study astrology and will know the cardinal, fixed, mutable, fire, water, earth, and then number associations. But not many books relate it anymore to nature and to the seasons or to the time of day. My vision was tied in to how the I Ching and astrology and color and sound all came together as a similar language. And this was kind of a picture of it. It's all the I Ching hexagrams, the 64 of them, and there's 64 star shapes for each a star shape for each hexagram. So instead of a solid and a broken line, you have points of sensitivity and arcs of strength. So this is the greatest receptivity of the Mother Earth. And then over on the other side here, you'll see the 6 solid lines. It's all a hexagon. But the colors, as they run through it, this is a mixture of the hexagrams, the star shapes. The star shapes move into the Kabbalah and fit onto the tree of life, and the colors run through the Zodiac. So it's kind of a language code for going into each of the different systems. And this was part of the vision I fell into 40 years ago. I'm still living in it.
You have done a lot of things as part of your contribution to our field over the years, but right now I know that a huge part of what you do is teaching. The Robin Armstrong School of Astrology just gave away tons of scholarships, very celebrated. So how did you start teaching? When was that leap from consulting to teaching?
74 probably. I started teaching. I started first class. When I first started, I taught the first class for a while, and then it was intimidating every level. Do I teach the next level? Do I dare? And then slowly by slowly, I just kept adding levels. till it got up to about 10 levels, and it stayed there for the last 20 years or so.
And it's very thorough. I've had a chance to look and benefit from this program, and it's very thorough.
Yeah.
It's like each level is divided into several weeks that build upon the others, and
Yeah, each class, well, when you learn, it's like a good book. You pick it up, you learn something each time you take it. If you go to a class, you learn something, and you work with it for the week, you come back the next week, you're learning another level, and it just builds up. But if you don't take the time to build up your foundations, it's not going to play the same. We say astrology, and learning music, very similar. You have to learn the scales, you have to learn the letters, the symbols, the words, the sentences, and once you get them together, you can talk your paragraphs, or you can play your symphonies, and it comes more alive. But it's an interesting thing. Like, I think of astrology not so much as a science, although it can be used like that, not so much as an art, it can be used like that. I see it as a language. And you learn a language, you learn the alphabet, or the symbols. Then you learn to make words. Then you learn to make sentences. Then you learn to make paragraphs, and then you communicate.
Armstrong School of Astrology. How did that start?
It's really RASA School of Astrology.
RASA.
Yeah.
Great name.
Yeah.
RASA.
Yeah, it plays off two different symbols. Both, you have NASA on one hand, and you have RASA being the dance of Krishna and the dance of life. So they are the moonstruck in a way. But the School of Astrology, we started a scholarship program to get the 4-year course program. It's all digital, it's all on MP3s and text, but someone can come and get we're giving away the complete 4-year program as a scholarship to people for conditions. Well, anyone can apply, but it's really an international thing. We're giving 2 away per country, and actually we've expanded it to include 2 per province in Canada, 2 per state in the States, and 2 per state in Australia. It may expand a bit more as it goes.
Wow.
But the first priorities, the preference is being given to single parents, people with financial difficulties, people in isolated areas, and people with special needs. So if somebody's having trouble and they can't get access to astrology, or having trouble affording to go study, that's who the scholarship is for. So you send in an application. It's really low. It's not an intensely scholastic thing. It's based on your financial position, and if you're really interested, you can get the information. You can go in and study on your own. So we just did the first wave of it, and we gave out 57 scholarships. 2 to Brazil, Ecuador, 4 to Nigeria, a couple to, let's see where else, Ethiopia, Qatar, Moldova, Croatia, Ireland,
So that's
Australia,
so exciting.
China.
Yeah.
So it's really working so people can be studying it and get good information. It's a 4-year program. So you start it. It's like having a good book. You're going to take some time to go at it. But we're going to keep this going on through the next 2 years, for the 2012's International Astrology Year. So we're going to keep that going up through 2012 and see how far it goes. And if anyone wanted to,
So what can people expect to learn through RASA?
astrology.
Yes.
Like learning music. It's like your own courses.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Astrology.
But if you want to do that, you just go onto the site, and you can go under scholarship. You can send an email from there.
I'll put a link on.
And then you're registered. So it's just rasa.ws. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. So let's go over to the Celestial